So I think that we'll go ahead and start. We're a few minutes past the top of the hour. Welcome everyone back to our weekly Friday series on civil society organizations and Ukrainian resilience. And we're very honored to have two guests today with us. We have Svitlana Zaluzhna, who is living in Lithuania with her family and does a tremendous amount of work with different projects and organizations, and is the founder of Open Nation NGO. And she'll also talk about in a moment her many other projects, because that introduction does not do her justice to the amount of work she's doing. We also have with us Iryna Mazur, who is based in Philadelphia and is the honorary consul of Ukraine in Philadelphia, is also a practicing immigration lawyer in Philadelphia. Very grateful for your time today, and is also extremely active with charitable work related to Ukraine. We'll be talking about families and migration today, the effect on families and migration in Ukraine, and we have two excellent people to give us insight into that. We also have today as our moderator, Olga Nikolska, one of the co-organizers of this series, who will be presenting some background information on the numbers, the really shocking numbers about migration and the effect on families of the war. The series is co-sponsored by PONARS Eurasia, based at the George Washington University, by the University of Colorado, and also by isar.ednannia, a Kyiv-based NGO. Our organizers are myself, Olga Nikolska at isar.ednannia, Jeffrey Glenn with the Peace Corps, Virtual Peace Corps Volunteer Service, and Roman Alexenko, a community project manager based out of Kyiv, Ukraine. So with that, I'll turn it over to you, Olga, to get us started.
Hello, everyone. It's a pleasure to have you here with us. Many of you are returning attendees, and we are very happy to have you all here. And those who are joining for the first time are also very welcome, and please continue to join and spread the word about our series, because the things that we are discussing here are quite important, and we would like you to share the word about what's going on in Ukraine and talk about it at least two people of your circle in order to spread the word. So we have two tremendously wonderful guests here today, and as usual, we'd like to start with the question that we ask all our guests in this season. What is the victory of Ukraine for you? Svitlana, maybe you could start.
Good evening, everyone, but I know that it is morning at wherever you are. So in my country now it's evening. I'm really honored to be today here, and I'm really happy to be a voice of Ukrainian families and to bring the Ukrainian agenda again to your community. Thank you for asking me a question yesterday, and I had time to think about the answer, because otherwise it would be really challenging maybe to answer very quickly. I figure out that there are two perspectives that I have in this context of victory. One is more internal, and one is external, maybe. For me personally, the victory is when there is no war. It's like obvious that there's no military operations. Ukraine is in NATO, because this is a security guarantee for us, and this is what gives us the perspective of future. Ukraine is in the European Union. It means that we have direction to democracy and to the civilizational life and well-being. I also thought about the internal, because for me, the victory is not only about the war itself, but it's something should be changed inside the country within Ukrainians. And for me, it's the power of law, no corruption, let's say like this, no corruption. the strong institutions, civil society organizations, religious communities, in order each Ukrainian has the opportunity to belong to something and to influence through these institutions, and to have this responsibility also. But one more thing that I discovered for myself, this is about the unity of the nation, and for me, the victory for Ukraine is also the common vision of Ukrainians and the desire for the common good. That everyone think not only about my good, but also about our common good. This is something that I discovered for myself.
Thank you so much, Svitlana, for this answer. I think it covers pretty much everything that Ukraine can dream of. Iryna, maybe you have something else in your mind, seeing the victory of Ukraine.
Absolutely. Hello, everyone. First, thank you very much for inviting me. And I just would like to plunge right in there. For me, number one, I really want to believe it will be our joint victory. Joint victory of American people, European people, Ukrainian people, because Ukrainians are willing and able to fight the enemy, and they just need a little bit of help. And help has to be there right now. So we in America right now, we are in the middle of political debates. It's a very difficult political year, but I know that that American nation supports Ukraine. So whatever politicians do on the Hill, when they bicker and when they fight, it's a political game. But I know that hearts of American people are with Ukrainians. That's number one. Number two, for me, it's a matter of justice. Justice must prevail. So Ukrainian victory means justice not only for the victims of this 2 years of the most horrible full-scale invasion, not only for the victims of this 10 years war, because the war actually started not 2 years ago, but in 2014. But also many Americans, they don't know the true root of this horrible genocide. It actually all started more than 100 years ago, at the beginning of the 20th century, when Soviet Union, when Russia occupied Ukraine and started to spread its own red terror, but millions and millions of Ukrainians were killed, tortured, simply because at that time in 1918, Ukraine was formed as a new state. And that was a deliberate attempt and goal of Russia, of the Soviet Union at that time, to eliminate Ukraine as a nation. That's number one. So for me, after justice, I really want to see that finally this genocide will stop, because during the Second War, we already were witnessing that the world turned a blind eye when millions of Jews were burned in the concentration camps and ovens of Nazi camps. Okay, so the world didn't do anything. At the beginning of the last century, the world didn't do anything when reports were coming from Ukraine about the Great Famine. We had 3 waves of the Great Famine. The world didn't do anything. But at that time, we didn't have tools to actually share the truth, to share the information. Now we do. And this is up to us to stand for basic, round, basic values, what is right and what is wrong. This is up to us today, for this modern generation, to know to what kind of world we will transition. If it will be a world of sort of like Hitler style and Putin style, or we will finally get together, be united to counter this evil. And finally, we will transfer this world to our children, to our grandchildren in a different state. So for me, that's what that victory would mean.
Thank you so much, Iryna. It was very, very insightful historical background of what is happening in Ukraine today. So thank you for that. I think we can transition to a little bit more personal level now. And I would like to ask Svitlana to tell our audience a little bit about herself. Where are you? What are you doing? Do you have children? Do you have a husband? What do you do in your everyday life? Everything that you're ready to share, we will be happy to hear.
Thank you. Yes, I'm ready to share as we agreed about it. So before the full-scale invasion, Russia's full-scale invasion into Ukraine, for many years have been a social entrepreneur. I was a principal of a private school, experimenting with the world best known educational practices and innovations. During the COVID time, my husband and me, together we established a social project, which is called in Ukrainian Zorylove. And this project aimed to preserve and develop the Ukrainian families, to reinforce and to nurture the conscious and human parenting. So we organized family camps, different festivals, national movements. We worked with huge businesses, such an IT sphere, businesses who took care about their families of their employees. So my background is business. So I have MBA degree, and actually I received it in the Carnegie Mellon University in the United States. And also I have humanitarian background. So it seems that in early 2022, I found myself on the driver's seats of my interests and my beautiful house, my life. I have 3 children. My smallest one, she was only 1 year when the war started. And since March 2022, after 3 weeks, we fled Ukraine to Lithuania. Why Lithuania? Because a lot of people are asking this question, as Lithuania still is not safe, and the risk of escalation is very high in Lithuania. And nowadays, this dialogue between Lithuanians and the government, that they are really now is preparing for the for the escalation. There are a lot of different trainings and sirens. So this is also, the war here is always here. I mean, it's not still safe, but I was invited by my partners and colleagues with whom we did a lot of projects in Ukraine in education before the war. So I moved to Lithuania with my 3 children, and a little bit later I must transferred my mother-in-law as she was diagnosed cancer, and we decided to take her to Lithuania also because it's a little bit easier for us to maintain this when she's with us. And my husband, as we have 3 children, he can easily cross the border and be with us, and also be in Ukraine and in Lithuania with us, which is a great help for me because to have such a big family, and it's quite difficult. So, and after 3 days, we went to Lithuania. It was Thursday, I believe the date was 18th of March. On Friday, we received these migration procedures. We did these migrational procedures, and on Monday, I was sitting together with other Ukrainian activists in the office of Open Society Foundation, which is Soros Foundation, one of the part of this. And my kids were on Monday in the Lithuanian school, my elder kids, and we started doing brainstorming and thinking how we can help Ukrainians. And for this moment, after the 2 years, just to not to retell all the stories, but just briefly say that my professional identity is totally changed. Now I'm how I'm recognized in Lithuania and in the international community as a social activist, as the founder of NGO. So I'm working, and my expertise now is integration, inclusion, resilience. So I established 2 projects. One is a project which is dedicated to the war trauma healing, to the resilient community building. And I'm going to share today the insights about the family, because my target audience in this project is families, Ukrainian and Lithuanian families. This project is quite big. Maybe I will show you now a video about this project, because we touched thousands of families, and we had a really huge impact with this project in Lithuania. And also it is considered our approach, human-based approach, is now considered as a success case in the integrational approach within the European Union. So we presented in Brussels, in Euro Parliament, in UNHCR and UN. So now it is being explored as a case study for the policies, for integrational policies. And the other project, which is connected to civil society development, so we created a platform in Vilnius. It is called Ukraine Hub as a competence center for those Ukrainian women who has background and knowledge for intellectual ones in cultural, media, journalism, science, politics, also the students. For now, we have 300 members. We fundraised for the projects of these people more than €1 million for the first year. So it's quite a big program now. And we have 2 patrons. One is a speaker of Lithuanian Parliament. One is our vice speaker, Iryna Ukrainian vice speaker. So we are working with recovery and with saving and preserving the Ukrainian potential in order to contribute back. So this is my main spheres of professional activity now. So if I will manage, I will now just to show you a small video. If I manage, but because I'm not good in
at least we can try, Svitlana.
So one panelist can share screen. So I see now an option that only one panelist can share at the time. Maybe advanced sharing options.
You should start it first and then to go to it.
Yes. Yeah. Okay. Maybe. We should check before. Yes. Now maybe I see. Just give me a second. Maybe I will.
If not, we can share the link to it with our
audience.
Yes,
I will.
Oh yeah, it's working. Great.
Show, yes. And do you have a sound? Do you have a sound?
No.
No sound. But I think when you share it, there's something you click to share the sound. So you could unshare it and try it again.
Sound preference, maybe like this.
I would unshare. There should be something that pops up when you share it that says share sound too, I think.
Okay, I'm so sorry for this.
No, it's okay.
Let's
take a minute to get it to work. It's fine. It's fine.
Yes, it's not my cup of tea. Maybe because I'm in the and now do you hear sound?
No.
No.
So let me do like this. I will put out my and then okay, let's try again. Maybe this time.
Not yet.
For the past decade, Ukraine has become a daily
Yes.
battle for survival. The conflict has destroyed our homes and torn apart our families, leaving us with deep scars and profound losses. Throughout the 2 years of full-scale invasion, we have listened to the stories of hundreds and hundreds of families. Despite their varied experience of conflict, they share collective pain and suffering. While we might not be able to fully restore what they have lost, we offer them a sense of unity, support, and belonging to a community instead of merely surviving. We empower them to thrive and to make the most of their lives. Each month, we host weekend family camps for Ukrainian and Lithuanian families. Through family-oriented sessions, therapeutic activities, cultural events, and sports, children, adults, and adolescents discover new friendships, meaning, and inner tranquility. Together, we are resilient. Join us in shaping the future where inclusiveness thrives.
This was a great video. Thank you, Svitlana. Thank you for sharing your story. And now we'll turn over to Iryna, and maybe she would like to share her story with us.
Well, I will try to be very brief, like really to go into the essence of this webinar. I was born in Ukraine, in Lviv. It's the very beautiful city on the western part of Ukraine. There I became a lawyer and moved to the United States 24 years ago. Began working here and actually started to work with various nonprofit organizations. Later became their board members, such as like Ukrainian Federation of America, Razom. Then I helped with Ukrainian diplomatic missions in New York and Washington. Later I became a lawyer. I'm licensed in Pennsylvania and practice mostly immigration law. And then since July 2018, I guess as a result of my activities with the community and within the community, I was appointed as the honorary consul of Ukraine in Philadelphia. That's the first time Ukraine opened its diplomatic office in Pennsylvania. And I obviously continue working with our community, with all of the organizations and volunteers. On the personal level, I married my son. I'm proud mother of 27 years old son who is serving in the US Navy. My brother, who is also a lawyer, he is in Ukraine. He actually joined Ukrainian army since the first day of the full-scale invasion. So I'm also extremely proud of him. So as you can see, I'm very passionate about Ukraine and very passionate about the United States. And for me, I just want to take this opportunity first to thank American people for your generosity and for your support of Ukraine, because it was truly unbelievable to receive numbers, I mean, hundreds and hundreds of emails, phone calls, offering help, offering support. We could actually see tons and tons of packages brought by local population, not only Ukrainians, but actually Americans. And we were sending tons of packages to Ukraine. The entire community got united. And it was an unbelievable moment of unity, not even in the Ukrainian community, but unity throughout the United States. As I said, I lived here for 24 years, but I never saw any issue that would unite American nation like that. And they were, and they are still united in their support of Ukraine. And from my bottom of my heart, huge thank you for this support. So I guess I try to be brief. If you will have time, I would be more than happy to answer any questions, but I think we really have very interesting subject to discuss, and I really would like to plunge into that.
Yeah, it's the right time. Thank you so much, Iryna. It's the right time to talk some numbers. So, the Institute of Demography of Ukraine says that the population of Ukraine may decrease to 25.2 million people in 2051. Before the war, I'd like to remind you, the population was estimated at 46 million people. Due to the low birth rate, mass forced migration, and illegal export of Ukrainian children abroad, the population of Ukraine may decrease to 28.9 million people in 2041 and 25.2 million in 2051. Such a forecast of the Institute of Demography and Quality of Life Programs of the National Academy of Sciences of Ukraine is contained in the Demographic Development Strategy of Ukraine published by the Ministry of Social Policy. In Ukraine, the birth rate is falling. In 2012, it was 1.5 children per woman. In 2020, 1.2, and now it's down to 1. To reproduce the population, it is necessary that this indicator would be 2.2. According to the UN, about 6.3 million people left Ukraine due to the war. Other sources recently quoted 9 million people. In addition to that, the nation is getting older. As of 2021, every fourth Ukrainian was over 60 years old. Human capital deficit is 5 million people as of now. And we all understand that it not just happened because it happened. It happened because Russia attacked and invaded Ukraine, occupied part of the territories. And as a result of that attack, a lot of people left the country. And I'd like to ask you, what do you see that was the general effect of the war on Ukrainian families? Svitlana, maybe you could?
Yes, I could. And I would like also to highlight that today I will be able to share only my experience working with Ukrainian refugees
That's
who are
exactly
residing
what we
also
need,
Lithuania.
Svitlana.
Yes, in Lithuania, and this is also one important thing, that in Lithuania there are a lot of people who fled Ukraine from Mariupol, from this part of Ukraine, who were under occupation, because the only way for some of them, the only way to leave the occupational territory is only to go through Russia. So they just go through these filtration camps to the Russia territory, and then from Russia to Estonia or to Georgia, and then to Lithuania. So I mean that there are a lot of people. Why it is important? Because a lot of people are very, very traumatized by the war, with very huge losses. So part of these people are really had huge losses of children, of beloved ones, not only like some physical things, and then really require a psychological and medical help. I mean, medical help, and a lot of victims of violence also. Just in general, what I can say about the effect of the war on the families who are abroad. First of all, this separation and this relationship on distance. And as a result, it's also the Institute of Demography is also say about this issue that we will face the challenge of postponed divorces in a couple of hours or a couple of years, because the decision to divorce is already made. I don't know how to say it, within the family, but legally it is not. Officially, it is not like this, and things not happens like this. And to maintain these relationships is very, very hard for women, first of all. And it means that it influences the mental health, it influences the inner resources of people, both in Ukraine and abroad. Most of Ukrainian families who are abroad, they experience the survival guilt, very, very huge survival guilt, which really leads to also to feeling of to mental diseases, to the depression. I personally also experienced this survival guilt, and I know how it works. It's absolutely kill all of your activity and your way to live, how you can be in a thriving mode. The parenting crisis, because the women, they just live with kids and they just need to not only to earn money to feed their kids, but also to be a mother and a father. So the loss of identity of women, and actually this identity of refugee, it's really underestimate the story which is behind of each person, and the women, they just lost not only the identity as a woman, but also as a professional, but also as a parent. They just became, for their host country, a refugee, and for the family, just only one adult who is responsible for the whole family. Also, these disconnected narratives in society, it's very influential on families. And we know now that this dividing society into those who left Ukraine to those who stay in Ukraine, this tension between those two groups. Now, the more war is going on, the more these narratives became they really put pressure on people. And not only on families, but on friendship, on the circle of social circle. Also, I believe that this temporary residing and this rethinking of temporality, because after 2 years, it's hard to say whether it's temporary. It became something in the middle. It really leads to this surviving mode and this frozen mode, just to expect something. And the challenge now, what we see and observe working with families, that now it is needed to work with more with post-traumatic growth, as people need to make this shift in paradigm from surviving to thriving whenever you are. How long it will take, we do not know. And again, to maintain both agendas, Ukrainian and Lithuanian, and the balance between this integration and Ukrainian mindset is also quite difficult for people in Lithuania.
Yeah, thank you so much, Svitlana. It was very informative. Iryna, what's the situation in the States with Ukrainian refugees? Are there many of them, actually?
Yes, we do have many of Ukrainians who had to relocate to find safe conditions. But before answering the questions, I just want to point out into something interesting that many Americans would not know about. As I said, this war has roots over 100 years, okay? In the beginning of the last century, Ukrainian population was over 85 millions. 85 millions, 100 years ago. Don't forget that as a result of political divisions and Russian influence and Russian politics, Ukraine lost a lot of its territories during the Second War. Partially, some lands became Poland territory. Some lands became Belarusian territory. Some lands, like Kuban, huge territory with wonderful natural resources and unbelievable soil, became part of the Russian Federation. So during the last 100 years, we have Ukrainian population suffering from continuous Russian aggression from 3 waves of artificially created starvations, where Ukrainians were killed by starvation by millions. Later, they were persecuted, killed in Siberian camps. Let's not forget about population of Crimean Tatars, who were in 1994 all placed in animal wagons and deported from Crimea, dropped in the steppes of Middle Asia, and that was also part of Ukrainian population that was deliberately targeted. So we have this act of continuous genocide over the last 100 years that resulted to the fact that before the war, population of Ukraine was 40 million. And now, obviously, let's not to forget that only last 2 years, it's a full-scale invasion of unbelievable force. But actually that war started in 2015 when Russia annexed Crimea and also annexed 2 large provinces of Ukraine on the east. So people of Ukraine on the east, they were suffering from the Russian aggression, shelling and bombing. They had to flee. So we had tons of internally displaced people since 2014, people who immigrated and had to flee over like those 10 years. So when we talk about statistics, we actually have to be correct about giving statistical numbers over the years and over the time and reasons. But if we talk about only last 2 years, then by the statistics of the International Organization of Migration, it's stated that over 5 million Ukrainians are now internally displaced. Over 8 million Ukrainians had to find refuge outside of the country, and this is only official statistic. I don't talk about unofficial. With the beginning of the full-scale invasion, many countries in Europe, they opened special programs, allowed Ukrainians to resettle and receive special refugee status. The similar programs were first implemented in Canada. It's called QAD program, which is now closed, but over 400,000 of Ukrainians immigrated there. And I would say the same number, if not even more, I would say maybe 500,000 arrived to the United States through various programs. Because first we had actually admission to the southern border based on humanitarian paroles. Then we had specifically designed United for Ukraine program, which would allow Ukrainians to come without a visa. And the program really worked. Documents were approved within 24 hours last year, I remember. And thousands and thousands of Ukrainians were able to arrive to the United States, just having a sponsor who would take them and who would help them. The program is still working, but many Ukrainians also arrived here with the visas that they already had in their passport. So we had several categories of arrivals. And I would say that Uniting for Ukraine, it was unprecedented program that the US government created in this kind of situation, because at the time of the beginning of the invasion, Ukraine was not qualified to participate in ESTA. It's a visa-free program, so citizens of Ukraine would be able to arrive. The American consulates were overwhelmed by the number of people who were trying to get a visa. But if you arrive here as a guest, you are not able to work. So the visa solution was really not a solution. And that's why that program was created in a record time. It was basically 2 months that the US government created this program, which became later modeled for different other countries, which still works perfectly. And later Congress, Ukrainians who arrived here, they did not have a status of a refugee. But later the US Congress allowed their benefits to be equal as if they would be a refugee. So those Ukrainians are here, they're working. They just recently, in the end of February, the status, they would be able to expand their status for additional 2 years, given that the war in Ukraine is not over and the situation is not improving. So we, as a nation, we should be grateful that the US government provided this program and helped many, many families to find safe shelter. But it's not an easy to lose everything and to become to a country, to Germany, to France, to Canada, to the United States, and start everything from zero. So it's a huge, incredible stress, because people who suffered from the war, they already have a terrible impact. Their emotional system is really impacted. Their mental system is really probably shattered, because if you have a woman with 2 children, and their father and husband is in Ukrainian army. So you can imagine what kind of impact it has on their mental conditions. And many of Ukrainians actually lost their relatives because what Russia does, they actually aim into civilian infrastructure. So every day, Ukrainian buildings, kindergarten, maternal hospitals, they are, they're having missiles launched over them. So people are dying, they're burning alive. Children are dying. We have tons of Ukrainian children and civilians who lost their limbs as a result of those horrible, horrible attacks. So, and again, as I said, the response of Americans was overwhelming and people are extremely supportive. But as you know, you always want to live in your own house. You always want to have your own pillow. You always want to be on your own land, eating your own fruits and vegetables, going into those gardens where your grandparents had you as a kid. So Ukrainians are extremely attached to their land. And I could hear that many of them, they say, we wish we would like to return. And many actually did return, believe it or not. But that immigration process was so hard and it's so painful that people are actually coming back. Some of the people, believe it or not, even those ones who already had US permanent residence or even citizenship, they came to Ukraine and they joined Ukrainian army. They joined Ukrainian volunteer brigades as a volunteers, some of them as a medics, they started to help. So it was also incredible phenomenon that Ukrainians who had perfect life here in Europe, they actually went to Ukraine to defend the country where their parents and grandparents were born. So there is a strong sense of justice and support of your motherland, but some predominantly very vulnerable population of female with children, they had to flee. And just a little bit touch of personal story. Since the first days, we as volunteers, we didn't really know honestly what to do and how to respond to this crisis, because we were in such a deep state of shock that and obviously nobody taught us what to do in cases like that. We did have experience since 2014 organizing in the organizations and actually creating a society of volunteers in Ukraine, which didn't really exist before. But to respond to this magnitude, this kind of horrible problem, nobody knew what really to do. But we did the best. And we organized and we divided our tasks, and people were sorting and gathering and receiving humanitarian supplies. We were looking for medical equipment that could be donated by hospitals. And we were just sending aid to Ukraine. And people were traveling almost every week with luggages and transporting everything in their hands to Ukraine, because every action really mattered. But I never will forget how one day I would come to my office in the morning, and people who recently arrived here, they lined up in front of my office door because they said, what can we do? We don't know what to do. We don't know where to get housing. We don't know where to get clothes. We don't know how we can work here. We don't know anything. So that was really a challenging time. But we managed as a community and as a basically collective effort, we did manage to help those people with informational resources. A lot of organizations provided incredible help. A lot of my colleagues, we organized and we provided a lot of free webinars on the matter of legal services and information services. So I wanted to make sure that the informational field will be filled, so people will not have that informational gap. That was my personal task. So they would know the answers, where to go, what to do, where they can get help. Incredible role played our church institutions, Ukrainian Orthodox Church, and also Ukrainian Greek Catholic Church. They also organized centers of support. They provided those ones who arrived here with material support. And somehow all together. So what actually glued us together is that unity and desire to help. So somehow we managed. But right now, our task is to help Ukraine to win this war. because if Ukraine will win this war, and we will, because Ukrainians are not losers and Americans are not losers. Okay, I always want to emphasize it. We are not losers. We just have to act right now, united. That's number one. Number two, we have to make Russia accountable for their actions, because beginning from the horrible financial damage that Ukraine suffered, and let's not forget about the war crimes that Russia has to pay for.
Iryna, I'm sorry. I think you're flailing a little bit, and I need to get back to the topic.
Okay.
Sorry to interrupt you, but yeah, I'd like to get back to something what you said actually, and quote two more researchers. In a research dated by June 2022, 48.6% of women were planning to return after the end of hostilities. These are the women who were polled abroad of Ukraine. And 18% were planning to return in the near future. The other research conducted in the beginning of 2024 polled some returnees from abroad to Ukraine, and 49.3% of polled returnees said that they returned for good, and 80.7% of them were not regretting returning. So at least we can show, I don't know, some positive statistics for Ukraine in these researches. So my next question, we've already understood a little bit about what Ukrainian communities look like in the States. So I'd like to ask Svitlana, what's Ukrainian community look like in Lithuania?
So I just need to briefly reflect to what you say and what Iryna say. First of all, that in Lithuania, there are 85,000 of Ukrainians. So just to put figures here.
What is the general population of Lithuania, if you know?
Thank you for asking. 2.3 million people.
Okay.
So when we are naming the numbers of refugees, Ukrainian refugees into different European countries, we should take in account the number of the country itself. For Lithuania, it's more than 3% of their population, I mean, number of Ukrainians. For now, Germany is number one, more than 1 million Ukrainians. Then it's go Poland, less than 1 million, and then it's go Czech Republic. So I'm more aware about Baltic and Scandinavian, Nordic Baltic countries, as I'm working in this region also, and I'm exploring Norway. For example, now in Norway, also almost 100,000 Ukrainians. Each week, 5,000 of Ukrainians newcomers go to Norway. So it's quite a big number, and quite a big tension for Norway also. Just briefly say about returning back home. My personal opinion, because I am touching and working directly to families, it's very unstable statistic, because just for each Ukrainian family, whenever they are in the United States and Canada and European Union, to come back home after the 2 years or 3 years or 4 years, it's not only about to love Ukraine or to have this identity of Ukraine. It's about to make again a decision. This is the most hardest thing to do, because it's just to start your life from scratch. After this period of life, I mean, this is about reintegration again. This is about the fear of being blamed. So this is not only about when the war stopped, there is no missiles and it's safe, people will come. Not. The more war is going on, it is a decision for each family. And this decision is based on not only on a very rational things. My personal opinion, so that we need to make these united narratives and to put this mindset that we need Ukrainian everywhere. Each Ukrainian should be an agent for Ukraine. And if each family will work will communicate with their children with this Ukrainian mind, our countries need us. This is the most important thing in order to want to welcome Ukrainians come back home again. But there is no governmental very openly about this. There is no time for this things now. This is more civil society organizations should work on this. And if to talk about the Ukrainians in Lithuania, Lithuania is a unique case because there are a lot of different platforms in Lithuania which allows Ukrainians to have a community. Not only our organizations, but also another one in governmental opportunities and programs for local Ukrainian Lithuanian communities. People here I cannot say that all 85,000 of Ukrainians are consolidated here, not. But there are a lot of different platforms where people can be united by interests or by needs or by vision. So the Ukrainian community here is quite strong, and there are a lot of opportunities for us, for those who are thinking about this and who want to contribute to this. I believe that the core of strengths of Ukrainians in Lithuania will be created in a year, and which will be very connected to Ukraine and to Ukrainian agenda and to Ukrainian civil society organization. Is what we have a question about or not? Olga?
Sorry?
It is what your question about or not?
Yes, more or less.
Is it what your question about?
Yes, more or less. So
Yes. Yes.
we have 5 more minutes to go, and I still have a couple of questions. We don't really have a lot of questions in Q&A today, but the discussion goes on at a very good pace, I think. I have 2 actually questions left, and I would like to give you both like a closing word and remark answering these questions. So the first one is, do you see any compassion fatigue for Ukrainians in your respective countries? And the second one, what can others to do help support Ukraine and Ukrainians? So let's start with Iryna, and it's like 2.5 minutes that you have to talk.
Absolutely. Well, you see, it's a human nature to adapt to any disaster and to any negative feelings. So fatigue over a problem or over a disaster, it's just a natural feeling. Whether the world can actually afford to have a fatigue over Ukraine, absolutely not. Because every day of delay, it's not only cost us the lives of Ukrainians, but it also cost us great stability and security. Okay, so that's number one. Number two, I don't think that Americans are fatigued over a matter of Ukraine. Predominantly, I'm absolutely, when I speak to people, they all feel that sense of injustice. And maybe because perhaps their grandparents and parents, they all immigrated, not all, but all of them, a lot of them immigrated to the United States during the First or Second World War, when they actually personally felt consequences of the Russian continuous invasions, and their families had to flee. So maybe the subject, what is going on in Ukraine, is touching Americans actually on a very personal level, because a lot of American families immigrated from Poland, Lithuania, Latvia, Estonia, Ukraine, and actually all the Eastern Bloc countries. So that's number one. Number two, as I said, we cannot afford to feel tired or to feel fatigued. Whatever is going on the Hill right now, we experiencing great difficulties because it's a political year. It's a year of elections. It's a year of struggle between 2 parties. Personally, it hurts me to see such a struggle, because for me, what is important that American politicians would actually focus on what is the best interest to the American people. So what is the best interest to the United States? what is the best interest to the national security of the United States, and not what is the best interest to any particular political leaders or particular parties. It hurts me to see that some American politicians turn into the same category of people like communists were during the Stalin or Brezhnev. You know, I would expect something better from the representatives of American nation, because they took an oath to this nation. So act upon your oath and actually do what is in the best interest, because you have a duty to the United States. So that's number one. Number two, I always ask myself, like, from the average American, what does it mean to support Ukraine? Why do we have to pay money? Why do we have to support Ukraine? Well, American people must know that 90% of funds allocated to support Ukraine, they're actually staying in the United States. Nobody just gives cash to Ukraine. Nobody just spreads those money there. The money actually works to benefit American economy. This is not my inventions. This is not something that I say. That actually Secretary Blinken had a full presentation with numbers. So please Google it. I will not go on numbers, but 90% of funds, even a little bit more, are staying in the United States, benefiting American economy and creating American creating place where American people can work. So just focus on that one. And second, please don't dilly-dally. We cannot afford this delay. Right now, we have a delay since September. Delay is caused by political differences. But as I said again, our representatives, American representatives, they are elected to represent what is the will of their electors. And they have to be reminded of that. So if you really want to support Ukraine, if you're listening to me today, what I will ask you to do, call your representative in Congress, remind them whom they represent, call your senators. It doesn't matter. We need bipartisan support. It doesn't matter to what party you belong. Ukraine needs support because Ukraine is a strategic ally of the United States. Right now, Ukrainians are paying the price to stop Russian aggression. But God forbid, God, I don't even want to say it, but God forbid you will not help Ukraine, then your sons and children, they would be legally obligated, if the Article 5 of the NATO will be triggered, to be in Europe again. And then the cost of the war will be absolutely drastic. So for you, it would be cheaper to invest 3 minutes of your time, call your representatives in Congress, in local government actually, and just tell them, support Ukraine and express your support to Ukraine to them.
Thank you so much, Iryna. Svitlana, two same questions, very briefly, please.
Yes, I will try to do my best. So there is no fatigue in Lithuania, as we have the same and a common history, as we have the same and a common enemy, and as Lithuanians very clearly understand and experience that the war is on their doorstep. That's why there is no fatigue, any shadow about this. And small Lithuania donated twice. They collected 13 and 15 million euros for Bayraktars. Can you imagine? Smallest Lithuania and people, they just donate and donate. And just to, I would like to finish how you can help Ukrainians. Just to add to Iryna, not to from the maybe more human perspective, as everything that Iryna said, just I can put, how to say it, just to put my sign on each word that Iryna just told us. It's very important. And on the human level, it's easy to donate, to put money, but it's hard to start to talking to refugees, to people with real hard stories. But the more real people you will have in your community, the more real people you will have opportunity to talk, to invite, the more stories you will hear, the more Ukrainian agenda will be I don't know how to say it in English, will be appeared in your American agenda. Because behind of each person, there is a story. But when we are talking Ukrainian refugees, we cannot see these stories. And when we see the real story of people, we can, in a human level, understand and then be very impactful and do things that just Iryna mentioned. In order to recover Ukraine, we also need to recover the people. Because the country is also people. We need to recover the people, we need to enrich people, to consolidate people. So if you can do it in your small communities, please do it. It will help Ukraine also.
Thank you so much, Svitlana. I saw a question in the chat by Andrew Barnes, I think. It was the question of how Ukrainian families are living in Ukraine these days, and I can talk on that for 1 minute. Actually, the farther from the front line you are, the more it looks like business as usual. People wake up in the mornings in their beds if there was no air raid siren. If it was, they spend their night in a basement or shelter or parking space, which is underground. And then they wake up and go to work, and children go to school, and then they come back. And if during the day there is an air raid siren, you go to shelter again, and then you come back to your work, and it happens for 2 years already. And it's going on, and it doesn't go anywhere without the assistance of our counterparts overseas and in Europe. So thank you for being here with us today. Thank you for supporting Ukraine. Thank you for everything that you do and can do in your communities. Please talk to at least 2 people about our series. Please spread the word, because Ukraine needs your support. I think we will be concluding on that.
I think Iryna has a question. She has a...
Oh, okay.
If I may, I just wanted to add how people live in Ukraine. In some of the Ukrainian cities and villages, they're actually under the Russian occupation. So what it means, it's incredible amount of violence, rape, torture. There are filtration camps where Russian take Ukrainians and torture the civil population. And it's not just by like 1 or 3 years, so it's by hundreds and hundreds of the cases. You already could see the information about Bucha and Irpin and many of the cities that were suffered under the Russian occupation. And I just wanted to remind that also more than 20,000 of Ukrainian children were abducted by Russia. And this is another subject that perhaps we may have a discussion with this institution. But this is something unbelievable when Ukrainian children are forcibly removed from their families, when they're abducted, when they actually go to special institutions to be re-educated. And Ukraine slowly, but with the help of the international community, returns some children, but some, they actually will be probably gone forever. So we just have to remember about it and make Russia pay for those crimes against humanity. Because what is actually happening in the 21st century, it's unbelievable, but we cannot allow this to continue. So thank you for this webinar, and I hope we will continue on many important subjects.
Thank you, Iryna. Thank you, Svitlana. Olga.
Thank you.
Roman.
Thank you for organization.
So, yeah, I'm gonna just kind of take us out and close the seminar. I want to thank Sarah for opening. She was at another presentation, and so had to step away. I would like to end. There are a couple comments I think it's worth just reading through really quickly, and then we'll kind of close. Jane wrote that she visited her oblast. She was a Peace Corps volunteer, and though it's been safe and that there's been no bombing or Russian troops in the area, nonetheless, it's very clear that the war has a deep impact on the residents there. Many Ukrainian fighters from the region have died. Prices are up and income has been severely impacted. And of course, everyone is worried about their sons, brothers, husbands, and fathers. While many maintain their optimism, many are in despair. And I think we need to take that into account. Michael thanked us for our time and wanted to say thank you to both of our guests today. And there are a number of people who wanted to express their thanks for your showing up and giving your insights to us today. So that being said, please join us next week. Sarah's posted a quote, a lot of the folks who come join us every week. This is an important series, and I'd encourage you, like I tend to do, and Olga does, you know, we're not asking for people to do a lot. I don't think our guests are, but part of what we're here to do is make sure that people have an understanding of what's happening in Ukraine. And so if we can help facilitate that, if you need video footage, if you need further speaking points, or if you need information so that you can become an activist and an advocate for Ukraine, we're here to help you. That's why we're here today. So I'd encourage you, it's not a lot, but do something, right? And I think our guests have given us some good suggestions about what to do, particularly if you're in the United States, you have a phone, make a phone call. That can start something pretty powerful. So with that being said, I'd like to thank our guests again and thank our audience for joining us. You're dedicated and we appreciate it. And we'll see you next week, next Friday. All right.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Bye.
Yeah.
Thanks,
До побачення.
everyone. Bye-bye.
Take care.
Дякую.